No, I think let's roll. We're very excited to to have Paul sharing this the story of what's happening over there. This is all about uh, organizational resilience within Stanley Black and Decker. So let's roll film.
Fantastic. I am going to turn my video and audio off. I already told Luke my children are singing "The Wicked Witch is Dead," and you guys don't need to hear that. So I will be here. We'll be over there in the chat if you guys need us. But we're going to get started.
Hey everyone, Luke Sinclair from SWOOP Analytics here. Very excited today to have Paul Hevesy from Stanley Black and Decker with us. Hey Paul.
Hey Luke, good to be here.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining. We're going to talk a little bit today about how you guys are using Workplace from Facebook and SWOOP over there. Let's start with a little bit about you. Tell me about your role and what you're up to over there.
Yeah, you got it. So I've been with Stanley Black and Decker for a long time now, more than 20 years now. And the current role that I'm in, I took about a year and a half ago. And it was really primarily, it's a couple different things, but for the purposes of our conversation, it's really about how to build awareness for a new center of excellence that we were building out here at the company. So one of the key areas, or several key areas, that Stanley Black and Decker is very focused on here in the 2020s is things like artificial intelligence and how we leverage that to grow our business. Things like data and analytics, things like automation and robotics, and all kinds of kind of forward-thinking technology and focus areas. And so we assembled a really great, wicked smart team that we called our Performance Resiliency Center of Excellence. And it's a corporate function. So like, those who are listening, most of the time you get this, when you hear, if you're part of a big corporation, you'll hear something that says, hey, we're here from corporate and we're here to help. And usually that means more work for you all. But what this team really does is actually goes into our business units across Stanley Black and Decker, functions across the company, and helps them automate things, helps them get more time back in their schedule, leverages technology that says, instead of taking 8 hours a week cramming spreadsheets together, use this technology and it'll do it in 20 seconds, and you can get back to being more strategic at your job and more effective and efficient, those types of things. So there's all kinds of how we leverage data and all kinds of things like that. The challenge was all that stuff is happening, but a company like Stanley Black and Decker is really big, and everybody's heads down, trying to hit the number, trying to grow their business. And so I come alongside as part of this performance resiliency team and help tell the stories of what's happening in the company, the automation, the transformations, the resiliency that's being built in all kinds of different ways. And so I'm essentially an influencer / content builder that we leverage internally with our workplace instance. And we help build awareness across all of Stanley Black and Decker on all the things that we're doing. The idea is essentially, part of that is internal business development is one way to think of it. So the more people that see some of the content that I put out and say, hey, I had that same problem, I could use that technology, or I could use that automation, or how did they get access to that data? I could use that data, that type of things. More and more people come to our group saying, hey, I need your help. That means I'm doing a good job. That means our team is having a bigger impact. And so that's one of the key focus areas of my current role.
Awesome. Sounds very exciting. You are using Workplace from Facebook and SWOOP, but we'll save the SWOOP plug for later.
Okay. Perfect.
You're using Workplace from Facebook. Tell us a little bit about what that platform means for Stanley Black and Decker, how important it is, and what you're doing on that.
Yeah, it's been a big deal for us. It's been the last few years, maybe four, time flies, but probably the last 4+ years or so, we've been leveraging Workplace by Facebook as kind of really as our main communication tool from senior executives all the way down. So it's anything that used to go in email around promotions that people are taking, new people joining the company, new strategies that we're taking on, anything that you can think of around corporate communications and really across teams and businesses, things that are happening. that may have used to gone to a small group or even a large group by email that people may or may not have read and clogs up emails. We're really focusing primary communication through Workplace. Now we have a big organization, 55,000 plus employees across the world. Not everyone has access to Workplace. We've got a lot of manufacturing and distribution facilities where those people that work there, a lot of folks, frontline workers there, don't have access to Workplace. And so we use other tools of communication as well. But primarily, Workplace has become the way that we connect with employees around the world, share things that are happening, and keep people informed on a very regular basis.
I love to hear that. As someone who's worked in sort of internal collaboration, communication for a long time, I love to hear that it's sort of become mainstream. That's excellent. Tell us, obviously, with sort of some of the stuff that you're working on, Workplace is a big part of that, getting those messages out. What are some of the challenges you face, and how are you sort of attacking them?
Yeah, well, so there's a lot of messages coming at people all the time. So just because we added Workplace doesn't mean email went away, for example. Now, we did do away with Skype, but we replaced it with Teams. And so people are getting messaging all the time. So that's always one of the biggest challenges. How do you make messaging relevant to people where they connect to it, they can get in and out quickly, that you make your point, they understand what the key message is, and they can keep going on with their day. And how do you make something like Workplace a true communication tool versus just an energy drain, or a time suck for people where, hey, I got lost in Workplace for the last hour. Now I gotta catch up with my work kind of thing. And, we don't have that all figured out. If our corporate communications team was here, they'd agree. We don't have it all figured out. There's, anytime you launch a new tool like this, an internal communication tool, everybody wants a page. Everybody wants a team. Everybody wants, to invite everybody to everybody's page. Everybody wants to get notifications until you don't want to get notifications because you've signed up for way too many pages. And now you got to go figure out how to turn off your notifications. So every time you're mentioned or something gets posted to a page or a part of it, a notification doesn't show up in your email, thus further clogging your email. So, we're still on that journey, trying to figure out exactly how to leverage it. We're folding pages together. We're archiving others. Our corporate communication team does an amazing job, constantly kind of consolidating things. And I tell you, one of the biggest challenges that Workplace has really helped us with is all the changes that happen in a big company like ours, and hearing from the senior executive team. Workplace has been great for that because it's just a single source for messaging coming from our executive team. Hey, this is what's going on in the world. Hey, here's what we think about it. Hey, here's what's happening, in our company. Really important. Big acquisitions, big changes that are coming, reorganizations, things like that. You get, our senior executive team does a terrific job putting stuff to video. So people really feel much more connected. And that was one of our challenges that we have, is connecting with all these employees all around the world, being able, leveraging Workplace with video, especially from our senior executive team. People feel more connected. They feel more, we don't all agree on everything that's happening in the company. No, that's absurd. Everybody, we all have our opinions about things, but to be able to see, hey, and hear, hey, this is what they're doing, and this is why they're doing it, and here's what's coming next, and here's what to be thinking about. All those things doesn't mean it's perfect yet, because a lot of people still don't see it. People are busy. We've got, people out in the field, sales teams, service teams that don't always see everything that's going on, but it's available there. And then, and people that are starting to leverage the tool really well also use email as a way to drive people to certain communications as well. So you'll see our corporate communications team, myself included, if there's a really important message out there, we'll drop it in an email with a link in that email back to that workplace page to continue to drive people back to it. So it's always a challenge, and will continue to be, to get the majority of the people to see the messaging, because it's on workplace doesn't mean everybody's seen it. And so, but it's that challenge of getting those key messages out that continues to be a challenge. But man, we have got such a better, more effective tool now with workplace than we ever have.
That's awesome. Now, you and I have been friends for a little while now, and I know you've told me a few stories about sort of how you're using workplace for your resiliency content. Some of them I have just loved hearing, sort of the creative ways that you've been thinking about, approaching this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of your sort of principles or sort of, tactics, and maybe give us some examples?
Absolutely. I'd love to. I'll show it here. I'm assuming you can see this, Luke.
Yep, can see it.
Okay. So as I mentioned, you're looking live. I got to get my radio voice on there. You're looking live at our Building Performance Resiliency Workplace page. We've invited all people managers. It's an open group. We've invited all people managers across Stanley Black and Decker to this page. So, any given time between 6,400 and 6,700 people. So it's a pretty good size group. And I'll just scroll through real quick and just give you some highlights of what I focus on. So I'll build content that's both in podcast form and in what I call hype videos. So this is actually a good look at one of our business functions we call Stanley Ventures, which is out investing in startups that help us grow our business in some really cool ways. So this top video is about a minute long, and this bottom one's a little bit longer, that kind of more of a long form podcast in terms of what Stanley Ventures in this case is doing. And we brought in some folks from the business units to talk about the impact. That's one way we do it. So try to personalize it. You'll notice most things I try to do is by video where I can. This one's fun. I actually just posted this today. It's a repost from about a year ago. But the last couple of years have just been weird. And so I always try to use GIFs or pictures or things like that maybe just get people thinking. Maybe it's just a laugh. But this is a fun one because it's how some people think, myself included, at least at this time of the year. You get late in the year. It's like people say, "Hey, how you doing?" And you want to say, "Hey, it's good." And then eventually you're brought to tears a little bit because there's a lot going on these days. So things like that to get people connected. You see, I posted this just a little bit ago, and I've got all kinds of reactions. These have a tendency, when you insert a little bit of humor into what you're doing, recognizing, hey, the world isn't perfect. I know a lot of communications from corporate have to be really corporate-y. And good thing for me, I'm officially not part of the corporate communications team with Stanley Black and Decker. Of course, I work with them all the time, but I get a little bit more leeway. And so I try to use that for fun, to make a point still, but keep it light. I found that people interact with that kind of thing a lot as well. And then the other thing I do is I try to do I've got my microphone here. I've really leaned into this role. And I try to do quick interviews with leaders. So this is one of the things we call Take 5. And every couple of weeks, I'll post one out here around a key leader in our business. And I ask them everybody the same 5 questions. And they're super simple questions. The first one is, what's one thing about you most people don't know? Second question is, what do you love about your job? Third question is, your current role is whatever your current role is. How'd you get there? So you get a little bit on their career path. Fourth question is, what's something influential about you, or who is someone that's influential to you here at Stanley Black and Decker, and why? And the last one is, what's one thing you tell your younger self? That's it. Most of them are 4 or 5 minutes, but you can see they get a lot of interest. People love hearing and seeing kind of the real side of people. And so those are just some ways that I help build content. and get people interested in what's going on. You'll notice I don't, from time to time, I'll put a couple of paragraphs and things in, but for the most part, I try to keep the text pretty straightforward, pretty simple, key message there, and let the content kind of speak for itself. I'll always hashtag things, and I'll always add a bunch of people that I think will have interest in it and would like to see it. And that's always helped me. And I've learned from Swoop, I always try to ask a question. That seems to get, garner some more activity and some more engagement from people. So there you go. There's just a quick look.
I love it. I love sort of, this idea of sort of, being, we talk about bringing our whole self to work, but sometimes our communications and work sort of don't sort of live up to that. So I love that we're sort of trying to be ourselves and breaking out of that mold a little bit. We got a minute or two left. It sounds like this has, been pretty successful for you and things are going pretty well. Can you tell us quickly, for the people who are watching who may not really know what Swoop is, like, is there anything in Swoop that you really need and really sort of helping support this this vision that you have?
Yeah, thanks. So Swoop's been really helpful. A lot of areas. I'll just pick two in the interest of time. If you notice, as I scroll through there, Luke, I've hashtagged a lot of things. Every post gets a hashtag from me, and I try to use the same ones. Hashtag performance resiliency, hashtag transformation in action, because there's a lot of transformation going. Sometimes if it's more of a personal resiliency topic, I'll do a hashtag personal resiliency. The point is, anything around resiliency, we want to know if that resiliency mindset is getting picked up in other groups across workplace. Are other people talking about resiliency? Because if we're broadening the impact that we're having, people will be picking up things. They'll be sharing it to other groups. They'll be using that hashtag or something related to resiliency. That tells us, hey, we're making some progress. And more people are engaging in this resiliency effort. And that's one of the key areas we're always looking for. Swoop gives us all that great data on where are these hashtags being used. So the reporting I get from our corporate comms team from Swoop is, very first thing is, here's all your hashtags. Here's your progress in terms of reach across workplace using those hashtags. That's super helpful. The other thing that I really leverage for Swoop is who are influencers, who's talking about the things that we're talking about, who's commenting, who's sharing, who's liking, and those types of things. They become influencers, and then I leverage that information that I get from Swoop on those influencers to come alongside them and say, hey, thanks for your help. Thanks for influencing. Here's where I could use your help. Here's where you can continue to lean in. And so it gives me an opportunity to take it beyond just me and build more of an influencer network out there. And without Swoop, I'd have really no easy way to find that at all.
Awesome. Paul, we're out of time. I love hearing this story. Please come and talk to us again. Thank you. And we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Luke.
Cheers.
Hello, and we are back. I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love hearing someone who doesn't have to answer to corporate comms. That sounds amazing. If anyone out there has questions for Luke or for Paul, I'd love to hear them. I would love to hear Paul or Luke. I know you have a sort of globally disparate workforce. Not everyone's at their desks. Are there ways you use the analytics to target programming? Because I think that's a common challenge. Over the course of this Tech Thursdays, we've talked a lot about sort of the non-traditional worker when you're talking about communications and those people who aren't at a desk, maybe aren't at a computer all day. Are there specific analytics you think about or advice you could give to someone thinking about using that kind of segmentation to reach those audiences? We didn't prepare for this question. I know it's it's not particularly fair maybe, but.
Paul, do you have any thoughts? You have anything sort of, like people who are on the front line over on your side?
Luke, you want to take a crack at that first, Luke, and then I'll.
Yep.
I'm coming off mute here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. So the questions around how to drive engagement around certain programming, was that the question?
Yeah, just I know you had mentioned having a not all of your employees, everyone you're trying to reach is at a desk, and that's something
Right.
you commonly hear about. And then sort of specifically using analytics because you know who's doing what job and where they are. You must be able to segment and target those people in special ways. And then is there programming you use that's different than what you might consider traditional community programming for someone who is checking their email every 10 minutes, like those kinds of people?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I mean, we're trying to use hashtags and really encourage people to use hashtags, especially if they're engaging around a particular effort underway in the company. So, for example, one that's used really broadly around the company, since today is Thursday, it's something that we started a few years ago, and one of our really great leaders in the company picked it up. It's called #ThankYouThursdays.
Oh.
And so that's just really become a kind of a rallying cry where, you know, across functions, across businesses. I mean, Stanley's got I don't know, added up 60 or so businesses under the Stanley Black and Decker umbrella. So there's just a lot of people, spread across the world doing different things. But what's been fun is that hashtag has kind of carried across all of those functions and businesses, and it's a way for people to thank their fellow employees and engage in workplace and make sure people are properly recognized. It's a really cool way to do it, and it's really by that hashtag. We really actually call it #ThankYouThursdays as a thing, not just. Of course, we use the hashtag too. So that's just one way. You know, people recognize that it's easily recognizable, and it's kind of continued. It's been a little bit of a grassroots effort that's taken, 4 years or so. But now today, I was just scrolling through real quick, and there's probably a couple of hundred Thank You Thursday posts all across the company.
That's awesome. And, people get hashtags. Like they're not just something that would be happening at work.
Right.
They're like,
right. Right.
On any of your social channels. So I think that's really great. For anyone who, analytics are just really scary for a lot of people. A lot of times sort of the Venn diagram of like someone who loves community management and someone loves numbers, that middle part isn't always like a huge thing.
Right.
Are there metrics that you use or SWOOP functionality that you use that you found particularly valuable in reporting back your successes to your stakeholders and your executives?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So the one I mentioned in the videos, one I'll just mention again, really important. How many people are picking up, especially for me, in what I'm trying to do around resiliency, building a resilient organization. And that also includes personal resiliency. So I actually spend time, not every week, but every couple of weeks, I'll put a couple of posts out that just remind people about the value of really good sleep, for example. What good nutrition looks like as part of building your resiliency, different things like that. And so these hashtags, whether it's hashtag personal resiliency, hashtag transformation in action, or performance resiliency, we want to see how many of those are getting picked up across the organization. And that's where SWOOP helps us. The SWOOP will give us really good analytics on, hey, here's all the different pages. Here's the top 20 pages that use this hashtag over the last 90 days. And that kind of ties in also then to influencers. So who are the people that are using that hashtag the most in their daily work? Who posts that have that hashtag? Those are influencers. Myself, I try to.
I think we're losing you, Paul.
Oh dear.
You've gone into the black hole.
We have lost him. Luke,
no cell phone service.
add, do you want to add anything in about the way you...
Information from SWOOP, encourage those influencers to continue their influence, make sure they know that it's being recognized and it's real top of mind to use.
That's great. Luke, is there anything you'd like to add just sort of about working with an organization like Stanley Black and Decker, about how like certain SWOOP functionality is there, like the hashtags, like the page views, to help them report back their successes?
You know, you're saying about community managers and analytics, and I am that guy. You know me from right. Like I've been doing this for a while, and I've been on the customer side for the community roundtable, and now sort of the vendor partner side. And when I was back in American Express, I would have to do a lot of reporting, and we would have to work out how we tell the story of community in a language that the organization understands. And I tell you, I have come full circle on this, because I was a guy who did not like analytics, but SWOOP, we sort of make it easy for community managers. Like the interface is nice, and we have a lot of things in here that really sort of take the burden off you sort of needing to figure out with lots of spreadsheets. You can sort of access things easily. To build on what Paul was saying about the topics and hashtags, we actually go, it's a pretty new feature actually, one step further than that now. And I think this is one of the most powerful parts of SWOOP for a community manager and leadership as well, in that we can report on hashtags, but we can also now report on, if you're in the Microsoft space, topics as well. This is a big thing in moving toward Viva, Microsoft Viva connections. They're looking at topics right across the M365 world. We were able to report on those. And we're also using artificial intelligence in the form of Microsoft Cognitive Services to look for keywords across your collaboration or social network. Now, this is really powerful, because we know as community managers, we try to get people to use the hashtag, but they don't, right? And or they misspell it, or they might be talking about the topic. I use it when I'm sort of pitching, and it's not the best example, but it really illustrates this very well. I use the pandemic, right? When you look back at a Yammer network or a workplace network during the last 12, 18 months, there are many different ways to talk about the pandemic. We can say pandemic, but we can also say COVID, COVID-19, coronavirus, lots of different ways. So now what SWOOP is able to do is to look at topics, hashtags, and keywords, and give the community manager a complete dashboard of everywhere these conversations are occurring. And you pick up the misspellings. You can actually, I've seen in some people's networks, they have people talking about Corona beer. And of course, that's one we exclude from the reporting when we're looking back at sort of what conversation was happening around the pandemic. But yeah, I think the topics, this piece to me, it's something that I think back on my career when I've been on the inside. I would have loved to be able to, really use that, you have that functionality to be able to report on what's really being talked about.
Yeah, well, and just the idea that, especially in a really big organization, not every department's going to use the same language to talk about literally exactly the same thing, but different people are going to call it different things. And I'm going to put you on the spot. I would love if you have a screenshot of something like that kind of dashboard, whether it's the COVID one or something else, not right this second. I'd love to include that when we send this archive out, because I think that's a really powerful visual. So if you don't mind sending that to me.
I thought you were saying, can you pull it up now? I was like, oh, okay.
No. I've already done that. And like in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think I would really like to see it. And I think everyone listening would like to see it. I just think, because that's it, right? Like, you give me a spreadsheet and it's just not going to be good for any of us. All those numbers and then the thing, you give me a dashboard where I can choose things and grab screenshots, and then I'm great at narrative. I'm just not great at seeing the trends and the numbers and those kinds of things. So that's really, really powerful.
We're giving you a sort of comprehensive view as well. It's not just how many posts, replies, and likes were there. Mm-hmm. We're talking about who was influential, right? Who were the key influencers on this topic? Which departments, which which different segments, maybe countries, cities, we can help you understand those. So I think it can be really powerful. You're right, to have a dashboard and be able to see all of that.
That would
So I'll
be,
give you a screenshot.
that would be great.
Yeah, and those, just real quick, those, a lot of what SWOOP gives us goes right into a PowerPoint slide, you know, that everybody can kind of understand. So, you know, when senior executives are wanting to understand, hey, what progress are you making in terms of getting the word out about some of these key areas, the SWOOP analytics we can drop right into a slide, and it's very easy to present.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Saying that you like use this analytics tool and then figure it out on your own, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't. It's just not going to happen. But giving me a tool that is helping me build that narrative, helping me share the story, and giving me the information I need formatted in a way that is really easy to share, I think is like, that's like a secret weapon. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, I talk about pandemic, right? But there's a bit of a bleak example. You know, in reality, this applies to any subject, right? Like Paul's using it for organizational resiliency. But, you know, you might have a product launch where people might use different keywords to talk about that product, right? So now I can see, here's all my keywords, right? And here's what people are actually saying. It could be about, you know, something topical within the organization, a change, buyout, like, you know, anything that's going on could be applied to the same sort of dashboard. So
yeah, that's really awesome. I'm so glad we got to chat about this. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We did run a little bit past the time, but I wanted to ask my question and I'm in charge. So thank you, Luke. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone listening. We will email the archive out along with contact information for Luke and Paul, and with a secret screenshot that we're going to get of the analytics dashboard that I'm excited about.
Hey,
thank you for joining us. We appreciate your support. We appreciate SWOOP's support for the Tech Thursdays series. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks, Shannon. Great job. Thanks, Luke. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.